Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The time is now 3:34. I call to order the meeting of the Personnel and Compensation Committee for Monday, August 21st, 2023. A copy of the agenda for this meeting may be found on the county website under the tab for the legislature. Please make sure you silence your electronic devices and your cell phones. And at this moment, I ask you please rise for a moment of silent reflection, followed by the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rob Sassy is the chairman of the P&C committee. Unfortunately, Chairman Sassy is unable to be here today, so I'll be acting chairman for today's meeting. At this time, Kelly, would you please call the roll?
Benton.
Here.
Brescia.
Here.
Fagion.
Here.
Luna.
Present.
Menuda.
Here.
O'Donnell.
Here.
Kaduce. Seven President Lance.
Thank you. All righty, and we will turn to the agenda items. And we have agenda item number 1, 2 parts, part A and part B. I'll call to the table representatives from the sheriff's office. And we'll start with letter A. And this is a request to create 1 confidential secretary to the sheriff, grade 12. Upon incumbent obtaining permanent status in the new position, position number 23143, Secretary and Administrative Assistant 2, grade 9, will be abolished. This is legislative request number 192, and I seek a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brescia. Second by Mr. Menuda. And Ms. Cataletti, the floor is yours.
For this position, we're just looking to upgrade the confidential secretary for our administrative assistant. She's been in position for 23 years. Her job duties have greatly expanded in that time frame. We requested a desk audit. HR conducted one and agreed that the duties far exceed her current position. So that's why we're seeking this upgrade for her.
Okay, thank you for that, and I'll offer up questions here at the table. And not seeing any questions. Oh, go ahead, Mr. O'Donnell. Okay,
So is the vacant position gonna remain vacant?
Which vacant position? Her position?
Yeah.
No, it's going to be abolished when she is permanent in the upgraded position.
Yeah, but nobody, it's just her.
Yes.
That'll be it. And then when she becomes permanent, you're doing the switch.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
all right. Any additional questions? Okay, not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All righty, moving on to agenda. We'll move on to letter B, and this is, I'll need a motion and a second for the following. This is a request to create 1 contract coordinator, grade 11. This is legislative request number 193, and I need a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Menuda, second by Mr. Benton. And go ahead, please.
This is to create a contract coordinator position. Currently in our agency, we have over 50 contracts that are managed. With new contracts coming in, especially with new technology and equipment being acquired. As far as this position, we've had fiscal tech and one of our captains working on it, which is just burdensome to even take on this task with your already assigned details and assignments. So we're looking to create a contract coordinator position to manage these contracts so they're put out timely. That is the law department as well, because somebody who is well versed in the process kind of takes a lot of the burden off of them, walking us through each step, because, they're overwhelmed as it is.
Thank you for that. I'll offer up questions here at the table. Not seeing any, I'll ask again. Motion and I'll call the question. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 2. There's Darcy. Hi, Darcy. We have our Commissioner of Social Services and Mental Health joining us here at the table, and I'll seek a motion and a second for the following. This is a request to create 1 additional outpatient clinic director, grade 17, and abolish 1 vacant mental health assessment team director, grade 17. This is legislative request number 188, and I seek a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Lupan, second. Was that you, Mr. Benton?
Yes, sir.
All righty. And Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we had a recent retirement in the mental health assessment team position, and we're reorganizing in order to expand the duties of that title, that position by changing the title. So we have 18 satellite clinics now. We have Goshen coming on, it makes 19, and we have more to come. So we're gonna have the mental health assessment team, which is court-ordered evaluations from Family Court, and the satellite clinics be managed under this new title. So it's just a swell.
Okay. Appreciate that. I'll offer up questions here at the table. Not seeing any, then I'll call the question. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to item number 3. We have our commissioner and deputy commissioners from the health department. We have Dr. Pointer, Lisa Lahiff, and I'll be seeking a motion and a second on the following. This is a request to create 9 transporters for the ME's office positions. These are grade 6. Also request that the title of per diem transporter in the ME's office be created. The salary range for per diem will be $21 to $25 per hour. This is legislative request number 209. I seek a motion and a second. Please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lujan. And second by Mr. Anuda. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I do want to provide some background. So any deaths in our county that are unattended, unnatural, or suspicious need to be investigated by our medical examiner's office. Many of those then need to be transported to our medical examiner's office for either an external exam or autopsy. We had 514 transports in 2022, projected about 550 transports in 2023 based on what we've had so far. For years, this has been done by our funeral home directors at a cost of $250 per transport. However, the funeral home directors have informed us that they'll no longer be performing that service as of January 1st, 2024. So we need to find another way of transporting decedents in Orange County from location of their death or a hospital to the medical examiner's office. We have a couple options that we've looked at so far. Right now, there is an RFP that is going out this week, if it hasn't gone out already today, for a contract for another group or organization or person to take on that role of transporting decedents to our office. However, we know that RFPs aren't always successful, and we want to make sure that we have a backup plan because January 1st will be here before we know it, and we will need a way to transport people to the medical examiner's office. So we are hoping that we won't have to use these positions, but we want to have them available in case we need them. We know that it takes a while to go through the hiring process. These positions would be transporters that wouldn't start until that day that we need them, to be January 1st, 2024.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to questions here at the table, and we start with legislator Lujan. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioner. Just kind of, if you could maybe give us some insight about how it came, the decision to do 9 specifically and per diem.
So we need transporters 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We may have slightly less need during the evenings and weekends because if a patient dies at a hospital, sometimes the hospital can hold on to the patient for us until the following workday. But if people die at home or elsewhere in the county, we always need to be able to get them. So that's the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We anticipated 3 8-hour shifts a day. So that's 21 shifts in a week. We divided that by 5 8-hour shifts because people don't work 7 days a week. People typically work about 5 8-hour shifts a week, which gave us 4.2. So that's the number of people we would need if we had one person doing each of those shifts. But we need 2 people shifts because transporting a body is physically demanding. And that gives us 8.4 people I could go through that again. I know I did it pretty quickly.
So you need two.
We need 2 people and we do have these 21 shifts we have to cover in a week. So that's, you could also look at it as 42 shifts total divided by, you know, most people do about 5 shifts. Gets you to that same number, 8.4 people. That being said, sometimes people are on vacation or they're sick, or because this is physically demanding, they get injured. And so that's why we included those per diem people in case, you know, 9 people, we need whatever that is, 8.4. There's going to be someone who's not available certainly once in a while. That's why we may need those additional people.
Legislator O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then just my follow-up question is you have a range of 21 to 25. When you came up to that number, was that comparable to what other counties are doing? And would we be competitive? I know that we're struggling to hire a lot of different departments, and that's part-time. It's not, doesn't seem like it's got a fixed schedule. You know, how do we make sure that once we try to get 9, you know, like,
Right.
how do we accomplish that? Is that salary going to actually be able to attract the people like you need, that number of people you need?
I think that's a good question. I'm gonna answer your first part about other counties. So there isn't a very good model for this in other counties. We've talked to other counties in New York State specifically. And there's not really another county that is happy about their way that they're doing it or is necessarily doing it what they consider successfully. There are a couple other counties who've contracted out, as we're looking to do. There are some other counties who use funeral home directors, as we've done in the past. Some counties use employees that they currently have. However, if you have, you know, someone who's much higher paid, who's out on, you know, an injury because of this, then that's an issue. If you already have people in those positions who aren't physically able to lift bodies, that could be an issue too. So we don't have a great model for other counties. It is a physically demanding job for sure. And I would assume it could be an emotionally demanding job too. Otherwise, not a particularly highly skilled job. So we worked with HR pretty closely. I think in general, the transporter title in the county is a grade 5, but this is a grade 6 because of this, you know, because it's more emotionally and physically demanding. But I think it's a good question, and I'm hoping we don't have to use it, but I guess we'll know when we try to go out for it.
The medical examiner's aspect of it, you're saying that every single one of the funeral homes don't want to do this. Is that specific to Orange County, or are we seeing that in other counties? My apologies.
Orange County has a funeral home directors association. We haven't spoken with each funeral home individually. We've spoken with the spokespeople for the Funeral Home Directors Association. Funeral home directors are aging, and there are fewer of them for a lot of reasons. And so it's becoming much more physically demanding for them to do this. And because there are fewer of them, it's harder for them to meet the need. They also serve Rockland and Sullivan counties, I believe, the same Funeral Home Directors Association, and are not doing this work. I know in Rockland, I have to look back to Sullivan, but I know other counties have had similar issues. Some counties faced this during COVID with a much shorter turnaround time. We're lucky that they gave us as much time as they did, but still, you know, we're counting down the clock. We have just a few months left.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I got Legislator O'Donnell, followed by Legislator Menuda.
It's Legislator Luan, just the official title is Orange, Sullivan, and Rockland Funeral Home Directors Association. So there's 3 of them talk to each other all the time. Did we get a written request that they were not going to do this anymore?
Yes, we've received a couple of written requests and we've met with them in person.
What do you mean by a couple?
They have, you know, they've emailed us saying that they're not interested. They requested a meeting. We met with them and then they followed up with an email saying, thank you for meeting with us. As we discussed, we're not interested.
Okay, can you send us a copy of that letter or email
Yeah, I think we can
from
do that.
them?
Yeah.
And budgets here, so how much money did we spend last year on transportation for the medical examiner's office?
About $125,000, I believe. It was
Well, that
500
would be about right, 250 times 5.
times 514. Yep.
So what's your budget for this request?
We have put in approximately $1 million in specialty payment line for an RFP. It has to go through an RFP, or if it has to go this way, it's gonna be much more expensive.
Yeah, so we're going from $125,000 request to $1 million request. Well, that'll go in line with the new $24 million building. We can't skimp on anything. If we got a brand new building, we're gonna need to pay top dollar, right? So your request today is to multiply what we spend by 8.
I wish we didn't have to, and we are happy to hear other options.
That's not our job. These
Of
are other
course.
options. That's your job when you sat down with the funeral home association. Did you offer them any alternatives? Did you offer to increase to $250?
We did not, they started their conversation by telling us very explicitly that they were not interested in more money, that this was not a financial decision. And when we met with them in person, they started that conversation the same way. They said from the very beginning, this isn't about money. Our funeral directors are aging, all the money in the world isn't gonna fix that. Come January 1st, we need to have a solution to this. And we're hoping that the RFP is successful, and we're hoping that it, may cost less than what we're asking for here. But we do need a backup plan in case that doesn't work.
Well, we're hiring county workers, right?
If the RFP is not successful.
Right, so, and the RFP is gonna go out for private bids to do this work for us?
Yes.
Yes,
And when is that going out?
this week, if not today, I mean, it's set to go out this week.
Okay, and if that's not successful, it's gonna cost us $1 million. And does that include admin people?
So the $1 million that's in there now is to cover that RFP, whatever that ends up being. This total for these staff here, salary, I believe is $343,962 is what I have written down. That would be not including fringe, and then not including vehicles.
All right, so we give you these 9 per diem positions. You're gonna put them on a schedule, 8 hours a day, or are they just gonna get paid when we call?
So for these particular positions, these would be regular salaried positions. If we do a contract, the
No, I'm
con-
just
yeah,
stick to this.
these
for a second.
positions would be salaried positions.
And they be county employees. And you think you can cover 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 2 people with 9 positions?
Plus the possible per diem.
What do you mean plus the possible 13?
If we need, if we need additional per diem positions, or if we end up having people who can assist with some of that work during the day. So for example, like I said, sometimes,
I get it. So sorry to cut you off,
no, that's okay.
but to cover 7 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
24 hours a day, you need, for one person, 9 positions, just for one. So you want to do 2 positions, you need 18 people.
Oh, sorry, no, the 9 positions is for 2 people per shift.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
You need 18, put 2 people per shift. I don't know who did that for you, but I can give you the template from the New York State Police that shows you 9 people, 1 cop, 7 days a week, 3 shifts. 9 people, that's what you need. So you want 2 per shift? Now the price looks like it's $2 million. Okay? Because you can't do it. If one person is shift, 9 people, can't be done. Not be done. Do you have like a budget request here that was put in? Do you have any background on how you came up with that 9 number? Do you have anything written you can share with us?
So I can tell you how we came up with the 9. That was for those
I know,
21.
you explained that.
Yeah.
If you have anything written that I can look at that shows how you came up with those numbers,
I don't, but I can send that out to the group.
thank you. And where is the medical examiner? Is she working today?
Yes.
Any reason she's not here?
We didn't ask her to come today.
Any reason for that? This is her department. I know she answers to you, but she could add some of these answers. I'm assuming she did all the work and gave it to you two.
We've been talking with them, with her and Jackie DiChiara, who's the director of operations over there. And they have helped us come up with some of these answers.
All right, so why was the urgency to bring this to us today when you didn't want to wait till you got something back from the RFP?
Really because we want to have something in place by January 1st. And we wanted to make sure that we had that backup ready for when we needed it.
And when's the RFP going out?
It's going out this week. We anticipate, that we'll have it out for a few weeks. By the time we look at any submissions that we've received and determine if that's a viable option, we're going into the fall. And we understand that getting positions together,
Okay.
advertising positions, that can take a while. We wanted to make sure we were able to advertise and hire to have someone starting by that January 1st date.
And if nothing happens, what's gonna happen January 1st?
I guess we'll have to come up with another solution. The last-
Funeral directors, are they legally responsible?
No,
Or are we legally responsible? Who's legally responsible for the removal of deceased unattended deaths?
that's a good question. So funeral home directors are not legally responsible, but they do transports in a lot of other situations. So for example, they are legally responsible for bringing those same decedents from the medical examiner's office to their own funeral homes, which is a question that comes up sometimes. But the truth is, January 1st, we really want to make sure, no matter who it is, if it's a contractor, if it's internally, if it's the funeral directors, that someone is there for these residents. But these are people that it's been decided by our investigators need to go to the medical examiner's office. So that is internal. We want to make sure that those people that need to be investigated get to the medical examiner's office, and that's a decision that our investigators typically make.
They're the sole decision maker at the scene, whether to take the deceased directly to the funeral home or to the medical examiner? Is that what you just said?
They work with law enforcement
And the
That
medical,
wasn't my
and the
question.
medical exam.
and the medical examiner, yes.
So they're not the sole decision maker. Who's
The
legally, who's the person that
the
says,
medical
You-
examiner will decide.
correct, all right? Legally, what's gonna happen January 1st if nothing's in place? Who's responsible to remove the deceased from the scene? Is it the county's responsibility or is it the funeral home's responsibility?
If they're going to the medical examiner's office, then it's most likely our responsibility. If they're going to a funeral home, then it's the funeral home's responsibility.
Okay, that took a while to get the answer, but
Yeah.
we're getting there, we're getting there.
There are a variety of different things that can happen. Sometimes people end up, going to the hospital if it's something that happens urgently. So there are lots of different ways that it can go. As I mentioned, if someone dies in the hospital, that may make our staffing a little bit easier during the day because sometimes the hospital can help on that end with the transport, but we still would need the staff on our end.
All right, so I move this gets tabled till we get more information in writing as to exactly how much this is gonna cost us, how many people we're gonna actually need, because based on what I just heard, it's about half the number of people. I can guarantee you, they do 7 days a week, one person a shift is 9 positions, guaranteed. It's going on for the beginning of the state police, okay? Anybody who's done schedules knows that. So you want two people, 7 days a week, right? 24 hours a day. That's 18 positions, all right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay, I can give you the template.
I would appreciate that. And that 9 positions, is that based on people calling out? That's why calling out for sick or vacation?
It includes everything.
I'm going to just interject for a moment. We have a motion here on the floor. This is a motion to table. The motion was made by Mr. O'Donnell, and I'll seek a second on that motion.
Can I ask a question before? I
It's
second
related
it?
to the motion to table.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead,
Well, it's
Mr.
it's about the process, because when it's an unintended death,
This is on the motion to table, so if you can keep it directed to that. If we're talking about the circumstances revolving around the transportation and stuff, I think that is not what this motion is about. This motion is about, we can get more information on the cost.
So I'll withdraw the motion for now.
All right, the motion is withdrawn. Mr. Ben, thank you for the time. The floor is yours, sir. And then I have Mr. Menuda and Mr. Brescia, and then we will call the question.
so
I'll put my hand in.
I know if there's an unintended death in New Windsor, they send the police to investigate, so
Mhm.
someone would investigate what goes on. I never got this technical about it, but so he does his investigation, then theoretically he calls the medical examiner's office or a funeral home. I mean, how does he know, how does any department person know is investigating an unintended death, who to call?
That's a good question. So if someone has, say, an elderly relative who has maybe a terminal illness or is known to be sick, they have a death, the police are called, the police can determine that the investigator doesn't necessarily need to go out and make a determination that that person has to go to the medical examiner's office. So that's a determination of, who shows up at that scene. If it's a police officer who shows up, or if it's EMT who shows up sometimes. Sometimes it's a physician who shows up if someone's, say, on hospice or they have a family doctor. So there are lots of different people who can make that determination. But if a police officer gets to the scene and says, this seems like an unnatural or suspicious death, we think this should be investigated further, they would communicate with our investigator and the medical examiner's office. The investigator would do their job, would talk to the medical examiner, and then that decision would be made. So this isn't every unattended death. This is those unattended deaths that need further investigation at the medical examiner's
Something
office.
suspicious.
There's a list of types of deaths, county law that have to go through the examiner's office.
Thank you.
All right, I have Mr. Menuda and then Mr. Brescia, and then we'll get final rebuttal questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Mr. Menuda, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Procedurally, I think we have a little bit of a cart before the horse. You're going out to an RFP next week.
Mhm.
Yet we've sat in this meeting today talking about the differential in cost. You're looking at about $125,000 a year currently.
Yes.
Okay, so you have roughly 10 deaths per week, 10 transfers per week. And now we're looking at $1 million, right? So what we've just done is put in the public that we got $1 million budget for an RFP that's going out next week. That's one way to look at it. So I would have liked to see the RFP go out first and then see what came back. That's procedurally, I have an issue with that. With respect to the total cost, this is a cardinal change in service. We don't currently have this service at all. It's contracted out. So there is a lot of business administration costs and things that are going into this. It's being presented as a $21 to $25 per hour legislative request, but it's far more than that. It's an over $1 million budget. I would like to see a full workup on this as to what exactly is needed here. Because I'm not getting it. Those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Menuda. Mr. Brescia?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you, Doctor, for bringing this to our attention early, but way before it hits the fan, the job you're supposed to be doing, because you just got hit with this. Your predecessor knew about this for a long time. Your predecessor's predecessor knew about this for a long time. And you're not to blame. You're just trying to do the right thing. And if we have to tweak what you're doing to get the right answer and reduce costs, that's what we'll do. But you're doing the right thing. You shouldn't be attacked here today.
Thank you.
Okay? We've known about this. We as a legislature have known about this for at least 8 years. The funeral directors told us at least 8 years ago. They told me when I was chairman that they weren't gonna provide this service anymore. So it should come as, to the legislators that have been here for 8 years or longer, it should come as no surprise that this was gonna happen. Many years ago, we increased the fees for indigent burials and many other fees that hadn't been increased for years, and we finally did that. But they said back then to many legislators and your predecessors, that they weren't gonna provide this service. So hopefully it's not gonna cost us $1 million plus, but we're gonna assume a much larger cost than we've been paying. Okay? So do a little more homework, bring back other proposals or get others involved. But you're doing the right job here today. Don't want anybody else to tell you otherwise. Thank you.
I got Legislator Lujan, followed by Legislator O'Donnell, and then I'm gonna make some final comments, and then we'll call the question.
No, I wanted to echo the same comments as Legislator Brusha. This is definitely something that's, it's gonna be more costly, and we appreciate you bringing it forward. I too, seeing kind of the more questions we ask, the more we have, and that's okay, right? We're new territory. I do think that with a little bit more information, I think that we would be, all more comfortable to be able to address this with you.
Legislator Lujan, if I may, with your permission, I give you the floor. We have Commissioner of HR with us, Mr. Langdon Chapman, and maybe he can join us at the table, and maybe he can give us a couple of little tidbits of information that might help.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Obviously, you'll do as you see fit in terms of whether you want to adjourn this to another month or not. I would only respectfully say this to you. We need to do a two-pronged approach here. And as we all know, hiring people right now is a great challenge. HR worked closely with health to try to create what we think is the lowest cost proposal we could to hire individuals, the lowest grade position we could, given the very sensitive nature of the job. My fear, and you know my history of the different jobs I've had in this county, is that we're going to reach a point at the end of this year and the funeral director is going to walk, and the RFP process, the nature of it goes out today. So now we are August 21st. I don't know when it's going to come back, but my guess is it's going to come back in a month. So it's going to come back roughly the end of September. Then they're going to have to go out and evaluate proposals. My greatest concern is they're not going to get a proposal. I liken this in many ways, as oddly as this is going to sound, to what we had to deal with the Office of Assigned Counsel. The state mandated us all of a sudden to provide 24-hour arraignment process for people who are arrested. And Orange County geographically is a big county. We divided that, Mr. Brady divided that into 3 different zones across the county. I don't know how, and that took a lot of wiggling and back and forth, and took months and months to get actually done. With the state always having the sort of Damocles over us going, you need to provide, and we're paying you for this, the obligation of the council. If we don't turn around and get people able to transport deceased bodies, and it is our obligation. I mean, deaths without medical attendance. In case of any death occurring without medical attendance, it shall be the duty of the funeral director, undertaker, or any other person to whose knowledge of death may come to give notice of such death to the coroner of the county, or if there be more than one, to a coroner having jurisdiction, or to the medical examiner. So that becomes, I don't want to say it's our problem because it sounds insensitive, but it becomes our concern. Our responsibility, good choice. My grave concern is their RFP doesn't get them something, and we don't turn around and create these jobs until October, November. We're not going to get somebody on hire because we're still having a hard time hiring people. I would implore you to go down a two-pronged path as soon as you can. If it's not this month, certainly next month, to let us get that ball rolling so that we can try to get some folks to fill these roles if the RFP produces the results I have a grave fear, a bad fear it's going to produce. So you want to table today, by all means, you're the legislators, but if you had my advice from an HR perspective, I would encourage you to pass it, because I promise you, we're not going to hire somebody next week. We'll be lucky if we hire somebody 3 months from now. But I'd like to start the process as soon as we can, so that ultimately we can make a decision if we don't get an RFP response. But I respectfully defer to you, but that would be my.
Thank you, Commissioner. And if you have any follow-up?
No, and I'm actually really happy that you said that, because that was the other thing that I wanted to add, was that my concern about, I share, I think every one of us here, the more questions we have, the more we're kind of like, okay, there's a lot more information that we need. But what I was also going to say is that I don't want to, push it so far back that we don't have the ability to address this. So if we're going to postpone it a month, it's fine, but otherwise I'd be comfortable to also move forward today.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you, Legislator Levon. Mr. O'Donnell, Legislator O'Donnell, sir, the floor is
Well,
yours.
first of all, I'm only looking for a month for us to get further information. And I wasn't attacking you or you, right?
Understood.
Understood, and I'm telling you, I wouldn't have offered to share the template with you if this was an attack. That was an offer to assist you, okay? Other people have their own interpretations in their own heads, okay? So I can't control that, but I can control helping, right? So if it's $1 million is not enough. That's my point. It's gonna be $2 million. And I agree with Legislator Menuda, if the RFP had gone out earlier, right? Then we wouldn't have to put a number out there of what the budget is gonna look like. And, you know, if people coming in now that seem to be in this business, you may get RFPs now when they know if they put in 1.25 million, it's gonna save us money, okay, in the long run, all right? But I'll make a motion to table for 1 month.
Second.
I have a motion to table. Let me just jot this down here. Motion to table for 1 month. Motion's made by Mr. O'Donnell, and a second was made by, I'm sorry?
Me.
Mr. Menuda. And I am just gonna call the question on that for the motion to table. Can we get a roll call, Kelly, on the motion to table, please? A yes vote being to table for 30 days, a no vote is a vote against tabling.
Benton,
Yes.
Freshman,
No.
Fagion,
No.
Levon,
No.
Menuda,
Yes.
O'Donnell,
Yes.
Paduk.
Yes.
All right, so
Four ayes, unanimous.
we need, what do we have? What's our committee? We need 5 to pass?
That's majority.
No, we got 4. We have a committee of 8, right? So we need 5 to pass, right? Yep, so. Right? That's,
Yes.
legislative council, we need
Yes,
5.
correct.
So the motion,
can vote. Chairwoman.
so
If she so feels.
again, Kelly, what was the vote count?
4 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay, so the motion fails. That being said, I'm just gonna make a final comment. Both 2 commissioners and deputy commissioner, I'm sorry, I got Minority Leader Paduk for a quick comment, and then I'll make a final comment.
Is there any special requirements for this? I mean, we haven't seen the RFP and you guys isn't out
Oh,
yet.
no, it is.
Is there a special requirement to be a transporter?
There is not.
Yes.
So you could get a trucking company that says, we're gonna come and pick all 16 up at once in a tractor trailer.
They need an appropriate
Well,
vehicle, they need a
legally, that
license.
could happen, right, if there's no requirements.
Well, there are requirements in RFP for an appropriate,
And when you say
respectful.
appropriate, that's my question. What are the requirements to be a transporter of a deceased body to the medical examiner's office? Is there any requirement? Or maybe there should be some.
Yes, there are in the RFP. There have to be, they have to be, in a respectful, type of vehicle. Like a tractor trailer would not qualify.
And if I may for just a moment, could you make available the outline of that RFP to this committee? That would probably answer a lot of questions as well. So that being said,
Just send it.
I'm just gonna, send the RFP to us.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm just gonna make a final comment. I want to thank Commissioner Chapman, and I want to thank Commissioner Dr. Pointer and Deputy Commissioner Itzaleh for being here today for this spirited discussion. You're always forthcoming with information to us. And I know that this was a difficult task being here today. The last thing you probably wanted to do was to come and have to bring this in front of us today. That being said, I will call the question on agenda item number 3. And Kelly, can we get a roll call on this, please?
Benton,
No.
Freshman,
Yes.
Benton was a no. Freshman was a yes. Fagion,
Yes.
Luhan,
Yes.
Menuda,
No.
No,
No,
Paduk?
No.
Okay, so the motion fails. So we are going to move on. Thank you guys for being here today. We're going to move on to agenda item number 4, please. Joining us at the table, I see a Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, Eric Denenga, and a man with 2 hats right now, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Public Works of the Engineering Division, Travis Ewald. And I will seek a motion and a second on the following. Excuse me, gentlemen. A motion and a second on the following. This is a request to create 1 Assistant Superintendent of Highway Construction, grade 16. This is legislative request number 189, and I need a motion. Second, please.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Menuda, second by Mr. Benton. And gentlemen, Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is something we've been talking about internally for quite some time. We currently have set up where we have our 302 miles of road, 147 bridges, hundreds of culverts, about staff in the highway section of the DPW, roughly around 90 people. Supervised by 1 highway superintendent who, when he's on vacation, when we're dealing with storms, when we're dealing with natural disasters, even dealing with day-to-day work and monitoring all the 10 different crews that we have in there. And that includes the maintenance crews in the three districts, the garage, sign shop, and so on and so forth. There's a number of different crews, not all specific to construction. That those, and the 911 calls, and then the personnel issues and all these things, all pretty much handled by 1 highway superintendent who has pulled a number of different directions. So we have felt for some time that he needed an assistant. So this request is to do that. We do have situations now, I'll give you an example for when we have, when he's on vacation, the highway superintendent, and we have to appoint one of the maintenance supervisors to take his role. And really, he's only doing that role for an hour in the morning, and then he's going back to his regular crew. So we have that void there, where there's absence in that office for periods of time. And we are concerned about that. It's also the workload on the highway superintendent now. He's constantly on call, taking 911 calls in the middle of the night. Even when he's on vacation, he's getting the calls that we feel is really not fair to him. And also for the transitioning, eventually when that person is no longer there, it also help if he has an assistant, and then whoever's going to replace that highway superintendent role, at least there's someone there as an assistant to help that succession planning and whatnot. So I think it's a long time coming. Like I said, we've been coming to ask for this for a long time. Is there anything else, Travis? You want to add?
Not really. I mean, the emphasis really is on that the current highway superintendent is 24/7 on call, and he's responsible for all these different crews. The supervisors who are available to step in when he's not there don't have the familiarity of all the different operations for the different crews. They're usually focused on their specific specialty that they work on. So to have an assistant there who would also be familiar with the workings of all the different crews and responsibilities would be very beneficial.
Okay. Commissioner, thank you. Deputy Commissioner, Acting Commissioner, thank you. I'm going to offer it up for questions here at the table, and then I'll offer questions to other legislators joining us in the audience as well. Any questions here at the table? I got Minority Leader Paduk.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick one. So that it's coming from the budget. He's coming from your vacant positions budget?
We planned for it for the 2024 budget, and Deb, is that correct? I think it's coming from the vacancies. If we were hired this year, it's coming from the vacancies. So we have
It's
another.
already in your budget. So you can hire him anytime as long as he's approved and.
There's money there. The position just isn't there. Right. But we do have money because of vacancies.
This is looking to upgrade somebody that's in the department that knows what's going on.
That may or may not be the case. We certainly have internal candidates that we would expect to apply for the position, and we more than likely would also be posted to the outside.
Thank you, Minority Leader Paduk. And I have Legislator Cheney in the audience.
Thank you, Chairman. Currently, how many supervisors report to the superintendent of highway construction? There are 10, so he's responsible for managing each one of those and the work that they're doing. And how many employees total are underneath them roughly?
It's somewhere between 85 and 90, I believe, is the number right now. And it fluctuates obviously with this post-COVID condition that we're in. The numbers have come down over the last few years.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, legislator. I got Mr. Venuto with a question.
Just with regard to the assistant's position, what is their role when the superintendent is there? Present.
There's a number of different things. One is, Travis and I were discussing this a little bit this morning as well, that is the daily monitoring of what's going on the 10 different crews. So that's a relatively big factor, in keeping track of. And keep in mind all the personnel issues too, that we deal with all the constant, we've got a lot of turnover, a lot of interviewing. He can also do interviewing on a regular basis when we have different personnel coming in for HMEOs and other positions. Anything else, Travis?
To be honest with you, the current highway superintendent has gone above and beyond to fill a lot of these voids that are currently there. And I don't know that that's something that's sustainable or that we would get with, any other person placed in that position. So there's quite a few spots where I think that we could have better supervision and improved performance. So this would help with that.
To that point, he currently comes in an hour early every single day and doesn't charge the county for it because he's got to disperse the crews, give assignments and all that stuff on top of his regular tasks. So right there is an hour, 5 hours a day, 5 hours a week that is just, that we're not paying for.
Thank you. Okay. I got Mr. Benton with a question.
Okay, so it's 5 hours a week. You just said that we're not paying for it. So the superintendent is not on salary?
He's hourly.
He's out.
Correct.
Okay. He just doesn't put in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's not based on our request. It's not.
Okay,
you know.
and so in the future, the new assistant, is this a desk job, an office job, or will he also be out on the road supervising individual crews, checking on?
Combination of. I mean, we were actually just discussing this morning, if this was approved, where would we sit this person? And contemplating whether they needed all that much of a big desk space that they're going to spend a lot of time out, driving around the county with the different crews.
On a day-to-day basis, it would be probably a little bit heavier towards being out in the field, but it would definitely be assisting in the office with scheduling, ordering materials, moving equipment, scheduling personnel.
Okay. Okay, final question by Mr. Paduk.
You have foreman on all the crews, right?
We do.
And they're the ones that will be reporting to him. They report to the superintendent now if there's an issue. So just one foreman? I mean, for each crew, how many men are on the crew? About, would you say?
Areas, but
No, there's
no, 2 to 8 or so.
I would say 6 to 10.
And one's one foreman.
Correct.
If there's an issue, he talk to the deputy assistant, the assistant superintendent, and then he can come out. I mean, I'm just a little confused as to why this supervisor would be out on the road checking everybody unless there was an issue. He could be attending his work in the office, and now his assistant could be the one going out. I mean, I just, weird to hear that he's traveling around checking on them, which means to me, like I was a foreman, they didn't check on me every day, but that's just a question I had.
Yeah, and we're not implying that they need to be checking on him every day. It's
I'm just
really,
saying, superintendent deputy could be helping him in the office to read a lot of that stuff, right? And if there's a call to come in from foreman, then he can go out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I just.
and I'll give you another example too, is our current highway superintendent, when we're setting bridge decks, he's usually out there joining the construction crew, directing. He's pulling out of the office because he has expertise there and he wants to make sure the job's being done correctly. But
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paduk. And that being said, I'm going to call the question on this, on agenda item number 4. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Commissioner. Acting Commissioner, you can't leave. You got to stay.
I'll say thank you.
this is the first time I get to leave by himself.
Exactly. The last item on the agenda today, and we have Acting Commissioner for the Department of Parks and Recreation, Travis Ewell. Joining him is Deanna Crawford, who is the Deputy Commissioner for the Parks and Rec. And this is agenda item number 5, and I'll seek a motion and a second on the following. This is a request to reclassify Principal Account Clerk, position number 020156. This is grade 8, step 8, longevity 15 years, to Associate Account Clerk 1, grade 9, step 8, longevity 15 years. This is legislative request number 200. And I seek a motion in a second.
Second.
I got a motion, I got a second. And acting commish and deputy commish, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this request is to upgrade the principal account clerk position from a grade 8 to a grade 9. My understanding is that this position currently is higher level of responsibility than the position is classified for or classified as. And the position is responsible for the accounting for the department, along with supervising some of the accounting staff there. And the recommendation of the desk audit that was performed was to increase the grade to a grade 9.
Okay.
Anything else on that, Deanna?
Right, and, that being said, I'll seek any questions here. Not seeing any questions, I'll call the question myself. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. And that is it on the agenda. Motion to adjourn, please. Second. Thank you all. You all have a safe day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.